Hey everybody, my name's Toby Lockyer and this is my wife Solly Goods. I'm just here to do another update on what's going on. I don't know if everyone's seen our last video, so we'll just take it from here again and show you where we're at. We're still alive.
Yeah, that's our achievement for the last week. I have never felt closer to death. I have just had such low energy and really in deep grief about what's going on in the world. Being aware that we are actually, at war and under attack, under direct and ongoing attack by the powers that be, the banking cartel that actually, pull the strings, that control all the corporations, that control all of our corporations posing as our governments, all the way down to the, SAPOL here where we are in South Australia. We're living on Ghana land, so Adelaide, we're Sandy Creek, Barossa. The agenda that is coming down through this human herd control system, from the being pushed out from the top of the pyramid down onto all of us little people at the very, bottom of the pecking order, where they're running this massive psychological warfare operation in the form of the COVID staged pandemic, and now pushing out the bioagent, the experimental bioagent, which is killing people, and putting in place all of these control mechanisms and manipulations to scare people or trick people into submitting themselves to this bioagent. And they've deployed that here in our part of the world against our oldies first and foremost, but they've got a whole roadmap of planning to get the entire population forced into receiving this disgusting and dangerous death injection. Like, it's for depopulation. Bill Gates is on the public record having made that, declaration. He just casually slips it into his TED talk because, we've got too many people, so we need to depopulate. Like, this is, criminal psychopathy and insanity that people have just been conditioned into accepting as normal.
So some of the ways they're going to try and force this on you are going to be like cutting you off of any benefits that you might be receiving, refusing service to you, refusing medical, unless you have these vaccines. That's some of the ways they're going to come at you, which is important to know.
Yeah, food is a big one.
Food's going to be a massive one. Like, if they start doing it so you can't even go into a supermarket, that's going to be, a pretty big one.
Yeah. So really, we as a human family, as, community of people that actually love and care about each other and don't want to see anyone that we love and care about, killed off in this cull, we need to share this information with each other and get the true news out to everyone that we know. And especially, people who've got family and friends that are in our police forces and in our armed, defence forces. In New South Wales, they are actually using the Australian Defence Force to deploy the bioagent against the civilian population. This is criminal. This is war crimes happening now in real time. And the criminal corporate media is part of the criminal establishment. So you're not going to hear the truth on their channels. You need to turn that off, and you need to start talking to your friends and your families and your neighbours and comparing notes about what's actually going on in reality. And we need to be sharing the truthful information amongst ourselves to be able to mount a real world self-defense. We need to defend ourselves and each other because we are under attack, and they are killing, they're tricking us into killing ourselves and each other. It's really sick. It's really sick and twisted, and it makes me feel sick to my stomach. So, we need to get the truth to the people on the front lines of this, so that we can just say no. Like, we're free to say no when we're given bad information or orders that go against our own moral compass. You know, we are divinely designed to do what is right and good and true and loving, to look after ourselves and each other. That is true law. Anything that they're writing and passing off as law that is actually causing harm and loss is not law. That is criminal. Just because criminals take over the system and try to write policies to validate their crimes doesn't make that law. So we need to, you know, wake ourselves up to what is actually true and what is actually in the best interest of ourselves and each other, so that we can work together as a community to look after ourselves and each other and to reject all of this controlling, toxic nonsense.
There is no higher law than natural law. Nobody is above natural law.
Yeah, so we're in the process, as best as we humanly can, of restoring divine and natural law in our lives. Divine law being, you know, the highest law for us all, is love. You know, for us to be governed by love and standing in the truth and putting right action, you know, into play in our lives. That what we do in our lives is based on the truth and, you know, being as loving as we can be to ourselves and each other. Doing what is right and good. It's not rocket science, is it?
It's really not.
And being respectful of the original people of our land here is a huge part of restoring divine and natural law, because we can't pretend that the crimes that were perpetrated against our original people didn't happen and just carry on, you know, as if what happened to them has no consequence, because it does. There's been a lot of harm, a lot of loss. You know, they were truly free people, you know, living in harmony with their land, in community, and they had their own law, they had their own community, they had their own customs, and, you know, they weren't slaves. They weren't slaves to this empire and this toxic pyramid scheme. And when that came and took over and made all these false claims, it really decimated what was, you know, a living people of the living land, that were already here. So we need to acknowledge that for, you know, what it is, and to, between ourselves now, human beings, human heart to human heart, to do our best to make peace with the originals and to acknowledge them as the true custodians of this land, and to stand together in unity, as free and sovereign people together, to, you know, found our sovereign nation now and reject all of these criminal corporations and the establishment's claims against all of us. Just reject it as a whole and dissolve all of their mechanisms of control, so that all that we're left with is, you know, those things, those services, those people, those structures that genuinely care for and respect and look after people, and respect our individual rights to sovereignty over our body, over our mind, and over our soul. So that means no one's got any right to force anything on you against your will. It's very, very basic, just respect of each other's boundaries as human beings. You know, we don't force things on each other. You know, we agree to things by conscious consent, by honestly informed conscious consent. And so just coming back to some really simple, basic, you know, human decency and common sense, and not tolerating abuse as people just doing their jobs or just following orders. You know, if you're given an order that is to abuse and violate somebody else's human rights, and you know that person is acquiescing out of fear or out of misinformation.
Oh no, bro.
My flag. Yeah. Basic human decency.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's really not hard.
What else? Anything else, babe?
Well, you probably could have talked about your flag.
We'll leave that for another day.
Okay.
It's just a place to start. It's not the be all and the end all. It's just you know, one way of us being able to express our true human unity, you know, and I guess the simplest way for us to do that is for us to just be kind and loving to each other and to support each other in being free and sovereign human beings, and to not, you know, not buy into or give power to any of these false claims that has people believing that there's this special class of people with special powers and authority that have a right to perpetrate harm and loss on others. You know, that's a lie. That is not okay. You know, we as human beings, you know, essentially all good human beings, not psychopaths, but good human beings, all are non-aggressive by our general nature. We don't go around trying to hurt each other. You know, and most of the time we try to help each other. But we have been tricked and trained into this system that tells us we can't trust each other, we can't trust our neighbours, everyone's a danger, we've got to have these armed police to keep us safe. And the police are what I feel most threatened by. I don't feel like they keep me safe or protected at all. I feel like they are a constant threat to my peace and my privacy and my physical safety. You know, that they are always trying to find a way to make a claim against us and get some more money out of us, you know, or exert their satanic state powers over us. It's really vile, it's disgusting, and I see them harassing, you know, people in our community. I see them intimidating. I see them causing harm and loss and fear, you know, and we've seen that with all of the medical freedom rallies as well. You know, people are saying, hang on a minute, we're free people, we need to be free to choose what does or doesn't go into our bodies. We need body sovereignty. And what are the police doing? Well, some of them are respectful, you know, some of them are standing, you know, in solidarity with their community as human beings, but some of them are actually violent thugs and bullies. You know, they're abusers. And we need to remove, you know, this veil of the uniform. Uniform doesn't give you permission to be a violent thug and a bully towards peaceful people.
Probably shouldn't get me started on safe hole. They've been really ramping up their crap around our local area. Something fierce. The other day I seen a sheep truck or cattle truck, whatever it might have been, get pulled over, and there was a dozen squad cars there for one bloke. Like, come on. This is just ridiculous. It's getting out of hand. I've got ideas, which I'll share with you next on the next video, of how we can maybe combat this in our local area. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, okay. We have got more stuff to share, but I think we should maybe wrap it up for now. And yeah, you know, how do we deal with this? Like, how do we as a community deal with this? And, you know, all I can do is basically stay in my heart and pray, praying for, you know, divine direction and divine protection, because this is primarily a spiritual war, a spiritual battle. It's between the forces that want to dominate and own and control and depopulate humanity, and us as human beings, you know, and knowing ourselves as divinely created living men and living women who are here to be free, you know, as brothers and sisters on our divinely created living earth. We're meant to be free to be co-creating heaven on earth together. Like, that's what this is meant to be. Not this bloody hellish nightmare that passes for normal. So you know, how are we navigating? I am navigating by heart, you know, in surrender to our divine creator, stepping forward in faith to just, you know, reject the satanic system, you know, in all the ways that we can, whilst trying to stay alive and protect ourselves. You know, and how do we do that in practical terms? Like, really, it's looking after each other.
It is.
Isn't it? You know, that we are doing the best we can to stay strong together as human beings, as husband and wife, and with our family and our friends and our community of people around us that, you know what's going on to one degree or another, and that we're collaborating and connecting and sharing information and coming together and, you know, working out what can we do together to make sure we all get through this safely. You know, that it's not about any individual ones of us, you know, just looking out for ourselves. It's about how do we pull together in an emergency response as a community to actually shift this dynamic, so that instead of being ruled over by fear and force and lies and deception, we actually restore divine and natural law. We come back to who we are as human beings at heart, you know, and just listening to each other and loving each other and looking after each other and respecting each other's free will, you know, that we don't force things on each other. You know, we're not about trying to extort money out of each other, which this system's all about, you know, these claims against each other and extorting money. Like, just, you know, money is a tool of this pyramid scheme. Like, they put that in place to control us. Like, we need to dissolve that fiction and not let money be, you know, a power that controls our lives. You know, what actually matters is, you know, housing. And, you know, I propose as an emergency measure to the fact that we are under attack, and it's psychological, it's biological, there's weather weaponry, it's also financial, it's economic warfare, and they are working hard to crash the economy so that they can repossess property and homes and businesses. You know, this is a megacorp takeover. So, you know, for us as human beings, we can say, no, we're not going to have the banks making the decisions about our lives, you know, taking people's homes. We're going to have a housing amnesty, and we're going to make being human free again. We're going to figure out how to do that together. We're going to get back to actually what really matters, making sure that we've got clean water, safe housing, we've got fresh, clean food, you know, that human beings looking after ourselves and each other and looking after our living land are our priorities. And that's how we govern. That's how we govern ourselves and each other. That's how we make our decisions.
We welcome ideas from all you good people too. Anybody that's got ideas, share them. We'd love to hear them. We're open to it all, so.
We are open to connecting and collaborating.
And we can't come up with everything.
Not even almost. And one of the most powerful things that we can do for ourselves and each other is actually starting to really listen, you know, open our hearts and listen to each other, you know, and become co-creative. So instead of feeling, you know, trapped and like we're victims of this system and we have no power and we have no choice, remembering that we are the co-creators here. We are powerful, creative beings, and what we agree upon together is law, you know. So we don't have to accept their claims against us. You know, we can choose together to decide what is actually best for ourselves and each other. You know, we have the power, and we also have the responsibility, you know, to self-govern and to self-protect, to make sure our community is actually safe. You know, even when that means protecting ourselves from the so-called authorities.
Okay, I think we'll leave it there. Remember, everyone, that COVID is a con job.
It is. And the truth sets us free. So, you know, instead of being fearful of the truth, getting really hungry for the truth and seeking it.